So today I am working on a 2017 Doo Gti SE with the 900 or 903 ACE engine, which is the spark engine. The first order of business was to find out why the ski wouldn't flush, and the culprit was the flush hose was twisted up. So when you're putting the water hose on there, it can twist the hose. If the nut for the hose connection is loose or broken. In this case, it's broken on the just off to the outer edge of my light. You can see where the cap sort of makes a straight line. That's probably supposed to crash into the notch there on the hull, and it can't because it's missing or broken. So we're gonna probably try to super glue that down or put a quick disconnect on there. It's very hard to reach all the way back in there. I'm not gonna try it. I don't want to get splinters from the fiberglass. It's just not worth the effort. So I'll try to figure out a way to get some super glue or some Gorilla Glue or something back there to stop that from happening. Unlike the spark, it's very easy to see how much fluid you have. Here, this ski is slightly below the minimum, so I'll add a little bit of fluid to that. It's the pink foreign fluid. I have diluted. I can't seem to find any undiluted. I would prefer just to go straight, but it is what it is. So the other thing I'll be doing on this ski is an oil change and a spark plug change. You're going to need a T30. What is that? A T30. It's not a socket. It's sort of like an Allen key. That takes the bolts off the ignition modules. Then I'll go ahead and unclip the ignition modules. Once I unscrew the ignition modules, I lift them up so that I can get the plug snaps electrical connections off. You're going to want to use a 5/8 deep well socket to access the spark plug, and this final spark plug I'll hold, zoom in, and we'll analyze it to see what's going on. The spark plugs look like shit. These are the NGK CR9EB, which again is consistent with the Sea-Doo Spark 900 903 ACE engine. And I'm sorry here, I'm just trying to focus the spark plug so you can kind of see what's going on here. That spark plug is toasted. This is indicative of using the wrong fuel in the ski. Let me take the smell test. It smells like gas, but they're oily like a diesel. So these are no good. This spark plug is toast. All of them look that way. Here's another one. Yeah, they're toasted. Say bye. After you check the gap on your spark plugs, you can go ahead and drop them in. You can see this is much cleaner, a lot less fouling on them already. And they are the CR8EBs. So if you were following along closely, you probably noticed, hey, this is a CR9 and the other one's a CR8. Well, the only difference between the 8 and the 9 is whether it has a removable top or not. Oops, sorry about that. So this one has the stationary top. So this one would be more like for your motorcycle application. Anything that's marine usually says like M1 or marine or something like that, white. So the 8s have the removable screw cap and the 9s don't. Same plug, different top. Doesn't matter in this situation. What does matter is that you make sure that your spark plugs in this particular application are at 35 thousandths. Now you can see here, just as I did when I disassembled, I put these connectors on prior to pushing the ignition modules down, and that makes it so much easier on your hands and knuckles. So we're torqued. You want to put the proper torque specs on your plugs. I always put a little bit of dielectric grease on the threads when I'm putting the plugs in. Add a little bit of blue thread lock tightener or thread sealer on the ignition module screws and torque them down to spec. Next thing for me, spark plugs are done. So I'm going to go ahead and warm up the oil and and extract it, and hopefully, you know, we have all of what appears to be diesel fuel out of there. Otherwise, we're just going to toast those plugs too, which is irrelevant, I guess, because the plugs are cheap enough where you can probably go through a few rather than just keep running on dirty plugs. So here we have the oil extractor. I warmed the engine up for about a minute and a half, and we end up getting a very good flow. The oil here is pretty dark, so positive side is there's no, let's see if we can get us, there we go. There's that oil streaming through the hose. So positive side, no water. There's no reason why there would be, but it is dirty. That is a dark color. You can get a better, more clear view of it here. It's pretty dirty. Oh, we hit the end of the line there. I'm gonna play around with this, make sure I get as much oil extracted as possible. The cap is removed. The 3 screws are taken out, 3 bolts are taken out, whatever you want to call it, with a 8mm bit that is made to handle the Torx heads. And I'm going to go ahead and pull that filter out. You can get one attaboy if you figure out how I pulled the filter out of the reservoir. And if you guessed a magnet, you guessed correctly. You can see here this filter has a lot of wiggly waggly going on, which just is indicative of overdue oil change or just bad oil or something. I don't know the life of the ski, so whatever the case is, that thing needed to be changed a while ago. In my favorite and patented move, I add oil to the reservoir to fill up the engine as much as possible. It's just a bigger area, and it ensures that the filter has oil on it before I try to start. Oil filter is in. Notice that they're going with plastic on the kit that I bought. So whatever. Cap, new O-ring is back on. Wiped it down with oil residue that was on my hands. And I'm going to line up the cap in the same orientation that I took it off in. I can tell because there's a yellow line on there. I'm going to get the bolts here, torque them down to spec with a little bit of blue Loctite. Torque down to spec, blue Loctite. Then we'll go ahead and check the oil level, get it right, start her up. Passed all of her tests with flying colors. So as I mentioned before, I am going to put some Gorilla Glue around the cap in the back of the ski for the flush hose to kind of hold it in place. The ski seems to be running decent, so hopefully whatever was going on with the plugs is all out of the system. The oil, so after I run it, I like to check the oil. So it's sat for a good bit, and you can see the oil there is on the second line. Yep, barely on the second line. So you really want it anywhere but from one line to the next. So I like to have it in the middle, but because this is not supercharged, being on the second line is fine. It'll survive, it'll be okay. So everything looks good, and that is the tune-up for a 2017 Doo Gti SE. Oh, I still have to add some fluid, and then that'll be the tune-up for the 2017 GTI SE.